Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Krapar Kini. I hope you have a nice drink with you, wine or something nice to cheers with, because we have something very special to cheers to today. So I'm sure everyone by now has seen and gotten all the emails about the Humayil Armenian Scroll publication that our very own Matt Sarkisian wrote, inspired by the scroll that was introduced in like one of the early Krapar Kini sessions. And if you haven't had a look at this yet, you really should. It's really a fantastic study on the scroll and Humayils in general, kind of what this whole manuscript type is about. And Matt gives a transcription of the Armenian text found in the scroll and unabbreviates the abbreviation, spells everything out, and then a translation with notes. Very good, like theological explanations and unpacking the biblical references, tracking down other references. Some of these texts are much more obscure sort of things, and he really got into all the traditions behind all these texts and just did a fantastic job with this publication. And it's also just beautiful to look at and read because the quality of the illustrations are so good. And then he made a really nice introduction, kind of explaining the background to Humayils and saying what kind of things we might suppose about those who made them, used them, illustrated them, and kind of this whole idea of like text being used for protection or binding and things like that. So let's give a cheers to Matt Sarkisian and all his hard work that went into doing this. And just also to celebrate like what a great thing to come out of a modest reading group like this. So to Matt Sarkisian and hopefully many more publications in the future.
There are some in the works right now, as Jesse knows. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for your help in leading me on the way and pretty much putting me on the right track, because I was looking at some things very wrong. And Jesse straightened me out on a major aspect of this. So thank you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And we started, as some of you I'm sure noticed when we were announcing this, we decided to start this as the first volume in a kind of ebook series, or like a book series that we're calling Sources from the Armenian Christian Tradition. And the idea would be like other sort of texts like this, where you get the Krapar text and then a translation and kind of study, or at least like notes for the reader. And so we're currently applying for a grant to see if we can get this printed like in book form. And so we'll keep everyone apprised of that. And otherwise, it'll remain as like digital ebooks, which is still great. And the idea, of the reading series is basically just an extension off of what we're doing in this group, which is to just bring out all the treasures from the pre-modern Armenian literary tradition and make them more accessible and approachable.
And just one thing is, next month's session on January 4th is kind of like a preview of what's coming up.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want to say, or maybe we'll come back at the end and you can give, well, why don't you go ahead right now and say what next session's going to be?
Well, next session, I was working on something else, and then when Jesse started his lecture series on the poetic forms in Armenian, the different traditions of that, I kind of like it inspired me to look at odes of Saint Narcissus Norhali, And actually, there's a little connection between the odes of St. Narcissus and the Hamail. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. It's you gotta. So that I'll explain it more in next month what that connection is. But it's a very obscure one. It's like once removed connection, but that kind of Jesse's lecture series at St. Narcissus kind of inspired me to look at his odes. So I'm doing a publication of some of his odes. I think about 60 of them, translation, transcription and translation, just like this, with lots and lots of commentary. There's tons of biblical references that I'm finding in it. So we'll see a couple of the odes next month.
Very exciting. And tonight we're going to look at colophons. Who has heard of colophons before? Yeah, okay, so most people. Alexia, what do you know about colophons?
I know that colophons were, I guess, sections written by, whoever was writing their script, their text, whatever, little prefaces that I think like asked the reader to, pray for them and keep the writer in their memory and, really call out like, I don't know, the role of God and like, giving them the, like in this colophon, the, divine energy, whatever, to write whatever they were writing. I could be very wrong, but that's what I remember from Sebu's class.
No, yeah, that's a great start, a great summary. Anyone else to add to that?
Well, present in these colophons are personal accounts of what's going on in the world, which makes them very, very interesting, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You see what they see going on around them, who their rulers are, who the Catholicos is, who the invaders are, what's going on at that time. Sometimes it's their own account, so it's through their own eyes, so it may not be entirely correct, but it's also the source of a lot of history that otherwise you won't find.
Yeah. And to that end, there's this book, maybe some of you know it, by Avadi Sanjan, who was actually the first Nadagatsi chair of Armenian studies at UCLA. I think he was from Jerusalem, Avadi Sanjan. And he wrote this book, Colophons of Armenian Manuscripts, 1301 to 1840, a source for Middle Eastern history. So departing from exactly what Matt said about usually in the colophons, in addition to actually their main purpose, which is what Alexia mentioned, which is mentioning the scribe who wrote them, the patron who sponsored the manuscript, and requesting prayer and remembrance for them and all of their family members. And they usually name all the family members, their spouses, their children, grandchildren, parents, everything like that. Well, historians naturally are more interested in what like historical or political kind of information is included there. And so Avadi Sanjan worked through all these colophons from this time period and basically extracted, arranged them chronologically, said where they were from, etc., and then gave the part of the colophon where the scribe gives any information about what political rulers were doing at the time and what kind of events were going on, whether locally around there or on the international scene. And what's significant about these dates he chose is that there aren't really Armenian histories from that period. So Tovma Medzopetsi wrote, I think, well, I might be wrong about the dates, but I think it was the early 1300s. And then you kind of had a gap in like the Armenian historical tradition and also generally in that period. And so in some cases, colophons give sometimes the only information about what's going on at that time, or at least another picture of events and things like that. So they're very valued by historians.
Jesse, didn't you
Uh-huh.
say in your lecture, in your historians lecture series, that some of the later historians, like in the 15th or 14th century, used the colophons as their sources?
Yes, and some chronicles, like where they give year by year information of what happened in this year, etc., are just extended colophons. And so, yeah, they're very important for historians. The Armenian manuscript tradition has the richest tradition, you could say, of colophons among the various manuscript traditions, much more developed and prominent than Latin or Greek or Syriac or any other neighboring culture. Pretty much every manuscript has a colophon, and they're often very detailed. And so this is also great for anyone doing manuscript studies or other studies, because they mention everyone involved in producing the manuscript. Who the illuminator was, who the binder was, often, the patron, even if someone has to renew the manuscript and give it a new binding, they'll get a colophon written for them. Later owners who have the manuscript will have colophons written for them. It was one of the main mediums by which people tried to ensure and preserve their own memory and the memory of their immediate family members. So that's the primary focus for which they're written. All the historical information is like accidental almost, or it kind of like just comes in because they're writing anyway. But the main purpose is the remembrance before God and requesting prayer for these people. And you see that exactly in the Armenian word for colophon. Does anyone know what that is?
Ishadagaran, something like that.
Exactly, Hishadagaran. I can put it in the chat. So Hishadag is a memory. And so Hishadagaran, place of memory or place of remembrance, memorial place, etc. So really emphasizing that aspect of it. They typically, as in, I think every single one I've ever seen, they start with this very specific word. Does anyone know what that would be?
Isha?
No, that's a good thought.
But so yours, the one you doing tonight isn't typical in that respect.
Well, what
or is it? Is it because it starts with park?
Park. They always start with park.
Okay.
So almost every colophon starts with park. What is park?
Glory.
Glory, exactly. So they all start with like a doxological statement of praise to the Trinity. So park, and then it could be just a single sentence, like parkordia vortvo yevsurpokvin, or it could be a paragraph, it could be a page, it could be multiple pages. These long lists, like in Gregory of Naudak's prayers, where he's mentioning all the different attributes of God or all these sorts of things. The colophons can be quite lengthy like this. One thing to be aware of is that in published editions of the colophons, there's a series of publications that gather colophons from different manuscripts and arrange them chronologically. They'll often leave out that beginning part with the park and all of that part, because those publications started during Soviet times, and they weren't interested in those kind of like theological or more religious aspects. They were more interested in the sociological, historical, political things. So they thought, why waste the paper space by printing all that meaningless stuff? Let's just get to the interesting information. And so, yeah, that's unfortunate for that. But now that we have so many manuscripts digitized, you can see a lot of these, and a lot of the manuscript catalogs that are of manuscript repositories, they'll have the whole colophon, which is good.
Jesse, a question. Were there topics that the scribe was prohibited from addressing in a colophon? For example, could a scribe have mentioned, my patron just went bankrupt and therefore couldn't continue funding this publication, or my patron, and therefore the patron changed, or my patron was just arrested for killing somebody, or stuff like that. Could that have been mentioned in a colophon?
I think so, actually. Yeah, they usually give a lot of information, such as that. They'll mention, for example, when they had to move from one place to another, to like, I wrote up to this chapter in this place, and then people invaded, I had to move over here, blah, blah. Or they'll say, this scribe wrote up to this part, and then like a new patron came and like sponsored the rest. You do get some of those details. I've never myself seen something mentioned about like he went bankrupt or like couldn't finish or something, but I imagine there might that kind of information would be given.
But speaking of money, I remember seeing, and it could be in Sanjian's work, a number of times where the money that they acquired the manuscript was like their own earned money, something to that effect, that it wasn't like gifted to them. It was like to establish that it's their property. Do you remember something?
Yeah. So a lot of times, well, one of the things is the colophons is also a place where you establish like the ownership and where the manuscript belongs. So let's say someone gives it to a certain church or a monastery, then they'll note that information in there, and there will usually be a statement to the effect of like, no one's allowed to sell this manuscript or remove it for any reason or something like that. And so when there's a later purchaser or a second purchaser of a manuscript, they will always indicate something along the lines of, I bought this with my own, well-earned money, or something like justly earned money. They usually say halal, like lawful money. And it's all in an attempt to establish like rightful ownership and make sure that's clear, that they didn't just like swipe it from the church or something like that, but that they bought and paid for it and it was all clear.
And along the swiping from the churches, there's sometimes they go into how they had to protect it from people trying to steal it, like the marauding invaders.
Yeah, so it was very popular. There's century after century of various tribes from Central Asia invading the Seljuks, the Mongols, the Ottomans, and on and on. And I really think that they realized that it was like a great money generating scheme to raid monastic libraries and steal the books, and then they would ransom them back. They would, so people would have to come back and then buy them back. And then usually when the manuscripts were bought back, there's also a note to indicate that. And the manuscripts are very like personified in these notes. The books are mentioned as like being taken captive, just like a person would, like as a slave, or being taken captive and then being ransomed back by someone. Yeah, that's also information that you find in these. Yeah.
Well, if it's the gospel, it's the word of God being captured.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rafi, I think in Geyser, he complains about Armenians building churches on top of mountains and providing no protection. All these tribes that you mentioned can come and loot it and then somehow sell it back to someone or back to the church. And he's very critical of, and that's why sometimes Rafi is being accused of being anti-Christian, anti-church, on and on. But he is not. He's telling the truth of, what's wrong with our church structure, let's say. If we may say.
That's really interesting. You can imagine.
A bit revolutionary, of course, for the time being.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in it. I think it was in Geyser. I have to go and look at it now.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Marauding and like brigandry is like a standard activity had been historically anyway in that part of the world, especially because it's so mountainous that little groups could hide off in little places and then go raiding somewhere. And that was basically part of what they thought of as their like economic system, wealth generation. And they, before, in the earlier period or medieval period, probably one of the reasons that not every monastery or church was like well protected with walls or fortified and things like that was that they depended on the local Armenian rulers, lords with their like knights and cavalry and everything to protect them. Like they knew they weren't going to raid it. They're the ones like who sponsored it and built it, and it was their job to defend it. But then over time, that like class of Armenian society disappears or is gone in a lot of places. And then there's just villagers around, and then these monks and churches, they don't have people necessarily to defend themselves, and you can see how easily they could be taken advantage of. So when I go to any manuscript that I'm going to read, and I want to find out any information about it, do I turn to the front of the manuscript or the back of the manuscript?
The back, obviously.
Yeah, so we're very used to it when we open a book to look in the front. We want to see like the title page and find about the author and all these sorts of things. You can find that, but the bulk of the information is in the back of the book. The colophons are found in the back of the book. And so when I'm reading manuscripts or looking for colophons, I kind of flip to the back, and the word I'm searching for is park. And it usually starts in a different sort of color, or like in red, or in Turchnakir, like the bird letters. And it kind of jumps off the page. And then sometimes it's in a slightly different handwriting. You know that, okay, the main text is ended and we're in the colophon now. And you expect to find that park, glory to God and all these sorts of things. And then afterwards, the scribe will talk about what the book is that he copied, give the title of it, talk about that book, and then usually the patron, his family, remember them, and then himself, all his family remember them. And then any other details in addition to that are like extra bonuses. But those are like the main things you tend to always find. Any questions in general about that before we turn to this text? Okay, so yeah, feel free, like you're doing, obviously, to jump in anytime. Do you want to look at the text in like the Word document or from the manuscript pages?
We'll at least show the manuscript pages because they're pretty cool looking, the pictures.
Okay, let's start with the manuscript pages, and then we can go to the text maybe for like the reading. So yeah, this manuscript was from a private collector in the UK who contacted me and he had bought this gospel manuscript and he wanted the colophon to be translated to find the details. And he actually, I think when he contacted me, he said that he thought or was told it was from like the 14th century, 14th or 15th century. Did anyone find the date as you were reading? Alexia.
You have the date in the Word version.
Okay.
It's in there twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at it in the Word version first. Or wait.
673. No?
Where is it in here? Oh, yes. So Art Karatsov sa itavaganityanis votes or hayots vo hun or ho keen, which is 673. So does everyone know how to read the letters as numbers? No. Okay, a couple people know. Let's just look really, really quickly because it's actually easy to explain. So you have basically like the ones.
Jesse, you want to use my Hemile publication because it's got a table of them.
Oh, okay, sure. Is that in the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you have basically 4 columns: the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. And so Armenian is perfect for rendering numbers because you have exactly 36, and that's exactly the amount you need to be able to render this with just 1 letter for each field here. All ancient languages, the ones, Christian ancient languages, Greek, Syriac, Hebrew, etc., they all use their letters as numbers. And it gets really confusing in all of those ones because there's like 22 letters or 24 letters, or there's not enough to like give 1 for each. But the Armenian system is like perfect. And so he had vo. So you see vo was 600. And what were the others? Ho, 70. And then Kim, I think it was 673. And that's Armenian era or Armenian calendar. And how do you get from 673 Armenian era to AD or Gregorian calendar?
You roughly add 551 and forget about the cutoffs.
Exactly, yeah. You basically add 551. So 673 plus 551 is 1224. 1224 AD. So that's when the manuscript was made. 551 is the year that Armenians started counting in their own system, and that's it had to do with calculating the date of Easter and things like that. So if you want an easy way to memorize the system, Alexia, as our teacher Helga Gulujian taught us, you just memorize like the first ones in each column. Like IP, obviously is 1, J is 10, J is 100, and Ra is 1,000. And then from there, you can kind of go down the alphabet. So when I see like vo, I go, okay, J men he nu sha vo 600. Or if I see a gen somewhere, I don't necessarily remember, oh, gen is 60, but I know like roughly in the alphabet where it is. So J I know is 10, J inilun chetza gen 60. And that's kind of an easy way to be able to handle the numbers well without feeling like you need to memorize all of the equivalencies or refer to the chart every time, because you can just do it kind of manually. Okay.
So do you want to point out the Arabic numbers? Or wait?
Yeah, we'll just wait on that.
Okay.
Let's look back here. Does everyone see the park where it starts out at the beginning? So nice and big and red. So you hear it has Avedaran Askopanu, meaning that's the end, he's saying, of the Gospel of John. So at the end of the Gospels, this was a Gospel manuscript, then you get park, and you know, okay, I've started the colophon. And this handwriting isn't too terrible to read. It's pretty similar to a lot of modern fonts. And so a lot of the numbers, or a lot of the letters are pretty recognizable, I would say. There are abbreviations sometimes, like vowels not written and things like that, which can be tricky if you're not used to seeing it. But this manuscript colophon, fairly typical because, or in that it's like 4 pages, which is about somewhat standard or typical length. One thing that wasn't typical about this one is that there was no patron or sponsor. Did everyone kind of realize that as reading?
Yes.
He never mentions any patron or sponsor. He says, after writing about it for a while, like, I desired of my own accord to make this manuscript, and so I did it. So that usually there's a patron or sponsor and the scribe is like working for them, kind of, but not always. Okay, so let's one other thing that isn't that typical is he doesn't mention, like, or wait, does he mention?
He doesn't mention where he is either.
He doesn't mention where he is, exactly. So you don't really know where he is. He does mention who the Catholicos was and who the king of Armenia was. And so you can nail down the date or confirm that the 1224 date does match, because that Catholicos was there at that time and that ruler. But then he doesn't say where he was. But I suppose I had to have a strong guess as to like where generally this manuscript was from. Did anyone think about that question?
Well, just based on the ruler, yes.
Based on the ruler?
Yes.
Who was the ruler?
Somewhere in Kilikia.
Yeah, why do you say that, Abba?
Because the king is, Philip is one of the Kilikian emperors or kings.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Of Antioch.
Antioch. Yep. He mentions Antioch too, and I got confused a bit. King's son is the king of Antioch.
No, he's the son of the king of Antioch.
Yeah.
Who's the king?
So, we can look at that in more detail, okay. But basically the king, who was the king?
Philip
of Antioch.
Yeah, exactly. He says Pilibos.
Yeah.
Which page was that on?
It was right around the date, right after the date.
Yeah. So he says right here, so you see, so he gives, so art kuratsav sa itavaganetianis hayots vohokim. So he said that was the date. And then after that, who was the Catholicos? I haira bedutianen diaren Constantia. So in the Patriarchate, another way of saying Catholicos of Lord Constantine. And this is this was Catholicos Constantine the First of Cilicia, who was Catholicos for a long time, actually 1221 to 1267. So that fits with the 1224 date. And then after that, who does he say? Yev I Takavorutianen Hayots Medzats. What does that mean? Hayots Medzats.
Greater Armenia or Great Armenia?
Medzhike, exactly, Greater Armenia, which at this time refers to where?
Cilicia.
Exactly, Cilicia. And then who was reigning? Pilibosi Vortvo Prunci Antiochou. So using Western pronunciation, another indication that it's probably from Cilicia, because Prince is spelled with pen, which is Western. So Prunci, and also the Tsa. Antiochus. So Pilibos, who is the son of the Prince of Antioch. And so this Pilibos was Philip, let's see here.
Hello, Jesse.
Hey, Harry.
What's up? Is Philip the Philip that was married to Zabel?
Yes. What do you know about that?
To create an alliance, Levon the first or third or whatever died and left his whole kingdom to his daughter Zabel, who was like 12 years old.
Yep.
So they married her off to some son of a crusader, which was Philip, Prince of Antioch.
Exactly.
And then he tried to make the Armenians Catholic, and then they got rid of him. But then she was in love with him because she was like a teenager, and then a lot of drama happened. And then eventually they married her off the Hetum.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
And
job, Harry.
and unfortunately, what happened to him happened a year after this colophon.
Mhm.
What happened to him happened in 1225, and this was a year too early.
Yeah. So
okay.
exactly. So Zabel, he married Zabel, I think in 1222. And he was around from just 1222 to 1225. This colophon's from 1224. So just in that very slim like period. And then as Harry mentioned, he was basically gotten rid of, like imprisoned, and then they like death by poisoning essentially in prison.
They accused him of stealing the crown jewels. And I think that was a
Well, they had to
justification for
give
killing
some
him.
reason for
Yeah.
getting rid of him.
Well, who knows? He was financing his father's wars or something. Who knows?
It's
It could have
possible.
happened.
Yeah. So he was the son of the Prince of Antioch, who was Bohemond IV. So that there was a crusader state of Antioch, a Western crusader state there. And so, yeah, the Cilician, they were always essentially making marriage alliances with the other crusader kingdoms to help bolster their power. So
Jesse, Antioch was not part of Cilician kingdom.
no, it was a separate power in the region.
Right.
And so they're essentially making a marriage alliance.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, so with that information kind of given, it seems, and the fact that he uses the F for his own name, Philippe Toros, which comes around this time, that letter, and that he uses Western pronunciation, which you can see when he says something like Prince here. Then with that kind of information, even though he doesn't mention the place, you can assume that this probably came from Cilicia somewhere.
Wasn't the word prince from that time period? It was borrowed into Cilician Armenian?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's turn to the Word document to kind of read through some of it. And Ava, would you want to start with some of it and say translation?
Yeah, as long as you help me out, because a lot of words I could not find.
Yeah, a lot of the theological words, yeah, they're dense and difficult.
And before we start, if I can ask, the punctuation threw me off a lot. I mean,
it's not our modern punctuation at all.
Is that how that time they wrote? I mean,
I don't know
they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even older. The older pronunciation was a lot better than this.
Punctuation?
The older punctuation going back centuries was a lot better than this.
Maybe.
All the hard stops, which are like almost like commas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically more like commas or just separating like, this is the end of this little phrase, here's another phrase, but it's not really like a period or a full stop like we'd be used to, yeah. Okay,
right.
So go ahead.
All right. Park anskispen yev an jamanak, anep yev anurek, an height yev an sharagab. The way I translated it, and please correct me, glory to the times from unknown beginning and not subject to the time, not bounded together. Basically, so many words he's saying eternally.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know how to.
So without beginning, without time. This is a beautiful word. These two, aner yev anurek, without when and without where. On hot, no conjunction or joining. Yev an shalagab, same kind of thing. And then it keeps going. That's not really like a stop.
Yeah.
So keep going, Abba.
Sure. Yeragi, Yezagi, Hırasha Hosan, Yev Yesusano Derutyanan, Hayr Yev Vortvo, Yev Okvin Surpo Hadgianas Amen.
Good.
I think it says now, glory to the wonderful flow of Holy Trinity and astonishing majesty of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, forever. Amen.
Yeah. So basically, with the grammar of these, the park, you need a dative. It's glory to someone. So all of these things are modifying like who the glory is going to. You finally get a dative at derutyanan. So glory to the lordship. And then what kind of lordship? All of this. So we said all these then. Yeragi, triune, Yezagi, singular, Harasha Hosan, from like miracles flow. So
outflowing of marvel is how I
yeah. Hiatsutsano, that makes you wonder or astounded or astounding. And then these are also in dative matching. So to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, eternally, amen. Harry?
Does you have a question?
Yeah.
Rasha Hosan is like Harash Knera Gahose.
Exactly.
Right? But it's it's Harash Neru Hosol. Is that what it's saying? The an is the an ending like oh, because I've seen that in some Armenian words, but I thought it was like a Turkish influence, or maybe we influenced the Turks, or it's Persian, or you know what I'm talking about?
Hosank is like the second part.
What I'm saying is a word to end with an sometimes is instead of ol.
That's interesting. I don't know if I've seen that actually, Harry.
Like instead of like it could be Harasha Hosol, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's how it's done in Turkish, and I've seen it in Armenian, but I don't know if it's like a 19th century Armenian thing that's not really proper, or if it is some old thing that both borrowed from Persian, or what it is, because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that very well could be. I think I don't remember if I found like Harasha Hosan with the on ending in the dictionary. That's a really good suggestion. I'll have to like look into that or think about that more because I wasn't sure exactly what that on was really doing.
Because in Turkish, if you said like,
which you have hosank, is it just a singular hosank?
Ud çalan insanım would be like, I'm an oud playing person.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. But so, I don't know, Matt, if you have hosank.
So is it like just combining the two words? So singular of hosank, like a stream of water flowing. Right. It's just two words put together as an adjective or an adverb.
The singular. Yeah, that could be also.
Hosank. Yeah, hosank.
Yeah.
But why does hosank in modern Armenian always have a k on the end?
Just, you know, like a lot of words, gyank, they just like, they're just
park is like the same way
in form. Yeah, park. There's just a category of words, cerk, that
right
always comes with that plural K. Yeah.
But then why does hosel become hosank in the first place?
Or is it the other way out? Hosank became hosel.
It's a way to form nouns, is the ank ending. So you have the verbal root hos.
Right.
And then to make a noun out of that, you need some kind of ending that'll make it a noun.
which is ank, but here there's no k.
Exactly. So either understanding it as the singular form, which is Matt suggesting, or we could go with an explanation like yours, which is that it's that like Turkish sort of on ending as like the agent, or whatever. But this would be a little bit early to expect Turkish influence.
Well, maybe it's not really Turkish. Maybe it's from, you know what I'm saying? I don't know that.
Yeah. I've never seen it.
I've seen it in Armenian and in pretty literary Armenian too, and I was surprised to see it.
Yeah.
So,
but these are all adjectives, so I don't, you're not going to get I don't think you're going to get like the or each.
This very next one right there,
that's why I'm saying it.
That's what I think he's saying. So,
all right.
Yeah, the one, the lordship that makes you marvel or is astounding. And then, yeah, it sounds like a plausible suggestion, Harry.
Yeah, my question is why higher is spelled with hun?
Okay. So, yeah, also up here on hot.
Yeah, many places. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows the answer to that? Alexia.
And I know it from you, Jesse, because having taken Krapar with you, in this period and in early Armenian, the I-pun together makes the O sound. So it's hor instead of higher there, and on hot.
Exactly.
Which is interesting because you had those have it like that, but you also had the F, because around this time it was changing, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so I think he maybe could have written with an O instead of I-pun, but what text did he just finish copying?
Gospels, which would have had it the old way.
Yeah, the Gospels, which are written everything with I-pun instead of O. So he's probably so used to writing and copying that. Also, maybe the O is very new that he's just using I-pun still in his writing.
Right. And all our modern words that have an O mostly originally they were I-pun.
Every single one. Yes.
Because that's why, or in classical Armenian is declined as avur.
Yep.
Avur is ice and whatever when they say in different prayers.
Exactly. Yep. And it would have been in the 5th century, you presume, it would have been pronounced more like Hawar or something like that. And then over time, the pronunciation simplified to just Hor. And then when the Franks had this O letter, they were like, okay, let's just use that to write this sound. And that's basically what happened. Okay, so Alexia, do you want to do this next paragraph?
Sure. Okay. Vorjed zorutun hasanel minchev tseverchin kids kruis. Zor shnorhiv diarn eskasa yev vogormutiamp norin kadaretsi is kerunag yev is hokneranyan yev is hokiatsutich dares serpots avederan chats Mateosi Marcosi Rugasu yev hofanu. So maybe I should have done that like line by line, but so my notes, I had to look back at my Krapar notes for this, but Yed, that's the modern Devav, no? So
yes,
gave, Zorutun, strength. So he's saying, this Surpokin Vor gave the strength to arrive until the last line of my pen. That's a very horrible word for word translation, but
yeah, or even the last line of this book, of this writing,
saying that the Holy Spirit imbued him with the strength until the last line of the manuscript.
Perfect.
Zor Shnorhiv Tiaren. So with the grace of the Lord, I started, and with is that like pity or
mercy?
Compassion? Mercy.
Compassion,
With mercy, I finished this supreme Hokneranyan. That would be like so Hoknagi Yeran, multi blessed, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Like many blessed or something.
Yeah. Yevas Hokia Tsutsich spirit, Tsutsich spiritualize, I don't know.
Yeah. Animating,
spiritualizing,
inspiring, spiritualizing, any of this.
Okay, so the supreme, blessed, spiritualizing, Daris, that's the accusative plural, right? It's not the possessive. So all of these things of the gospel, the letters of the holy gospel of Matthews, Mark, Luke, and John.
Perfect. Exactly. So exactly. All those adjectives and the letters of the holy gospel.
Scriptures.
It seems like an adjective modifying the evangelists. So it's of the holy evangelists. Avadaran each. The each is like the evangelist. The evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah, Jesse, the third word in this paragraph, Zavrutun. It's Zavrutun or she read it as Zorutun.
Yep. Yeah, so maybe in the 5th century, this would have been pronounced Zaurutun. But remember, the Ipun is just what we know as the letter O today. And so it's customary to just read it as Zorut.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went crazy looking for all places.
No. When you see the Ipun, just treat it as an O.
Unless it's followed by a vowel, then you can't.
Yeah.
So don't.
When it's a vowel.
There's a couple aren't there some exceptions?
Yeah, like
is it Ahavni spelled like that?
Yeah, so in that case, the Hune is a consonant.
Right.
It's not
the Hune was a consonant.
Yeah, but I don't know, like you can't really give a rule for that. It's just like the word or you don't. Because nothing would tell you whether to say Aroni or Aravni unless you just know that word is Aravni. Yeah. And in fact, in a lot of manuscripts, they write a little symbol above the hewn when it's supposed to be pronounced as a consonant.
Oh, that's interesting.
Has anyone come across that or seen that before?
No.
It's in the Hamayel all the time and printed
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's right. So even up until that was like early 1700s, Matt.
Yeah, but even into the 1800s, you still see it. It goes very late.
Yeah, it's a little, we can probably find an example. Not there.
Yeah, there was one there.
Oh, there was?
Yeah. At the bottom, Arantavoratz.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Very good eyes, Harry. Arantavorat. So it's like a little line that way and then this way.
It's
And
like
it's
a dash in a circle or something, like an accent in a circle or a dot.
yeah, it's two lines you can see in like manuscript text. And so, yeah, that's to indicate read this as a consonant, not as the like O vowel. But our manuscript hand doesn't do that. Okay, so Matt, do you want to go on?
I have to read it. Thanks a lot. Let me read off of mine. All right. Zor Arpin e Vernadunen a Schnors Hokvoin Serpo Yev Hunchetzin und Volordis Diezerats Zabadis Genanz Gochelov Hravi Realis Hurakutun Yergnavor Harsan Yatsin Aisham Hokavor Daris Sangatsa Yes Drubas Philibos Yev
or Philippe Toros.
Philip Toros. I know I should have known that. Philip Toros Yev Kretzi Asai Ishadak Ints Yev Zenogats Emotes.
Great.
That was pretty bad. But
no, it was good.
I'm only on my half a glass of wine, so my tongue's still a little icy. Okay, who in the upper room drank the graces of the Holy Spirit.
Good.
And resounded the good news of life through the ends of the universe by calling those invited to the joy of the heavenly wedding.
Yeah.
I, lowly Philip Toros, have yearned for the spiritual scripture, and I wrote this in remembrance of me and my parents.
Excellent. Great translation.
Not off the top of my head. It's research translation. So.
Yeah. Harry.
I have a question. What's volortis?
Matt?
Which word?
Volortis.
Volord means like rounds or ends or something like that, or circuit. So it's like they resounded throughout.
Like volor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it universe?
It could be like echoed as well, I think.
Diazerk is universe.
I think Volord is universe as well, no?
Kind of together they mean that. Volordas Diazerat's like all the rounds of the universe or whatever.
Or like the orbs all the way until the end of
Yeah, you could take it that way.
The Ptolemaic concept of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Any comments?
One question, Jesse,
Yeah.
if I may ask, like Sangatsa in this paragraph in other books, it's not ending with he.
Yeah.
Is that the grammar of the time? Or his...
No, it's just a mistake on his part. Yeah.
Many places, I mean, I see that he is missing. Maybe he's saving space, or maybe he's getting paid by the letters.
No, he's not saving space. He's writing it as it sounds.
Yeah. And
just not writing the he. Yeah.
One other comment or observation, having read some other colophons, is Derubus, lowly. This is the only time he like disparages himself. Usually there's a lot more of I'm not worthy of this, and which is kind of funny to read sometimes.
Yeah, derub is one of the very common ways of self-effacement, you could say. One of the adjectives of self-effacement. Means lowly, or something like that. And then Philippe Toros, so very Western sort of name, at least the first half, Philippe.
And even Toros
kind of sounds Arabic or something.
Well, Toros is also Kilikian too. That name. Is it like Theodore that kind of turned into...
Yeah, it's shortened Theodore, exactly. And notice how he says, so I wrote this in memory of myself and my parents. So again, no patron or sponsor. Harry, do you want to read and translate some?
Sure. Art agachem zamenisian vork internuik yev gam antorinagek Philippe Toros Kirchi yev anbidan gronavori Idrayutian hasagi arial as luds gronavorutian Pazum merok yev zulutiamp ansocial as ganasim yev garodem agotit tserots agachem hishel zis yev zarakial hayrim yev zjoch mayrim vor arder hochetsan yev zech parsanim ast marmno zavak yev payrim kahana as parsech yev as Mikhail Zorvar kahana yev as Hohanes Nodar yev as Kevork Goshgagar yev as Kversen yev as Quersen im miapan. So this is now I beseech everyone who reads this or who copies this. But I don't understand quite the grammar of those. Just from context, I understand what it means, but
so there's an unwritten like he shall or something. So I beseech everyone to remember or to make remembrance for.
No. What I'm asking is what's the word unternuik and unternagek?
Exactly what you said. Unternual is to read.
Yeah.
And antorinagel to copy.
But is that a verb tense?
Oh yes, it's second person plural.
So it's I beseech you who read this.
This is second person plural of the
present indicative.
Present tense?
Yeah, present indicative.
Present indicative, which is like the regular present tense?
Yeah.
Antorinagek. Yeah.
This one is obviously regular, yeah.
Okay.
It's because
unternual, yeah. Unternual, I mean.
Exactly.
Right. So this is like Tukvor Gunternik or something like that.
Precisely.
Gunternik. I don't know what it is.
We would just say
Tukvor Gagartak.
Yeah.
I see.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, so in other words, okay. So then I beseech all of those who read and those who copy.
There's an unwritten to remember.
Yeah, it must. Well, I think it's at the end. No? Oh no, it's not written.
It is later on. I beseech you to remember later on.
Way down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, to remember, Philip Toros, the scribe or the writer of this, Philip Toros, the writer, and the unworthy clergyman.
Yeah.
Or it could be a monk.
Good. Why do you say that?
Well, in the Western world, they usually call monk religious.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a cognate to that. Gronavor.
Yep. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if it comes from that or it's.
Or Gron, like Grusa Gron is like a celibacy.
Yes. And Gronavor or Gronavoritun is usually a way of saying a celibate priest, a celibate monk.
Okay.
A celibate clergyman. Exactly.
Okay.
So it's fine to say monk.
So Idrayutian Hasagi Arialas Luds Ronavoutian. So who took on the yoke of celibacy from a young age or from an age of boyhood.
Yep.
Pazum Merokiev Zulutiamp Ansutialas Ganasim. I've passed my life with many sins and with laziness.
Yep.
Many sins and laziness. You've got all them ahotitzeros, and I'm in need of your prayers. Ahachem Hishelzis. I beseech you to remember me. Yev Zarakyal Haidim, and my father, my missionary father, or my apostle father, or it could be his father's name was Arakel. I don't know.
I think
it's an adjective.
Name.
Well, but then it says Joch Mairim. Joch is more like. Joch is like a, Joch means.
It means happy or joyous, but I think that's her name.
Lavish. You say Joch Mezet. We're having a lavish,
But they're all with the accusative Z, so that's why I think their names.
I am pretty sure his father's
name was Joch.
Yeah.
Or like a nickname or something.
That's crazy. Okay. Well, all right, fine. So, and Arakel, my father, and Joch, my mother, who has gone to the Lord or been transmitted to the Lord.
Yeah. And probably both of them, because it's plural.
It's plural, yeah.
Oh, I see. So to remember me and my father Arakel and my mother Joch, who both of them who have been transferred, who have transferred to the Lord.
Yeah.
And my brothers, according to the flesh, my elder brother, the priest Parser, and Mikael, I guess this means like, Zorvar is like Zoravar, which means a head of an army.
I know.
General, the head of the commander, army commander priest.
Yeah. Did anyone have any thoughts on this?
Well, Jesse, we talked about it before. Is that you thought two people, Michael and Priest Zorvar, who just didn't have a Yev in the middle of them. It has the accusative Z on it. So it's like it's a separate than Michael. Like it's someone's name.
Yeah, but
well, maybe it's.
But see, Matt, he does the same thing here. So Zavak Yachpair, my older brother, is Barcel, and his
maybe
name
it's.
Barcel.
Is it possible it said something like
but
yeah, like the middle brother?
But Yekbayer doesn't have or priest doesn't have the Z on it. So I think that the Z's are indicating names because it's a definite object, definite person.
But Matt, here's Zavak.
Yeah, but there it's my oldest brother. Yeah.
But it's not a name though, because it's just a specific person. It's not a name. whenever there's a name, I think it's with the Z, it's a specific person.
But
That's just,
this word is not a name. That's what we're saying.
no, I know that, but whenever the Z is with a name, then it's a specific person.
Okay, but Zorvad.
But the first one, like the Zavad Yegfire, that there's no name in that expression. So the expression is accusative, definite object, but
the
there's
name
no
is
name in it.
Parseh at the end.
The name is Parseh.
Zavak Yegfire Kahana is Parseh.
So my older brother, i.e., who
The
is
priest.
the priest Parseh.
Parseh.
That's
This
how
one has.
I would read it. And then, and also,
Maybe he was a priest that was a military commander somehow.
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he was a chaplain in the army.
That's the closest thing I could imagine. I didn't know, I'd never seen this term before, and I translated it just as like commander priest and left it at that. But I thought maybe some kind of priest that is somehow connected with the military, like a chaplain, or I don't know what. Yeah.
And Hovanes Nodar, is Nodar like a related to the word notary? Is it kind of like a civil servant?
Exactly. The notary, the civil servant. Yep.
Okay. And Kevork, the shoemaker.
Yep.
And I guess this is.
It's his dialect.
Is it sisters?
Sisters.
Yeah, sisters.
My sisters who are. And Quiris im Miapan. Now, does that mean my sisters who are nuns? Miapanotune?
No, I think
Like
what he's saying, like,
or just together, I'm
yeah, together with
Miapan.
my sisters, along with my sisters. Yeah, and he doesn't name them. A lot of the colophons do name the sisters, but he doesn't.
Yes, you don't want to beat a dead horse, but Zorbar, is it possible that's like a monastic office, like a custodian or doorman, or
The word, I don't know. I mean, I just said what I knew, which was that the word means, like Harry said, commander or like general. And
Zorkagavares, you're leading soldiers or armed people or you know.
So yeah, I don't know of it as any other term.
Okay.
Did anyone want to read and translate that hasn't yet? So maybe go back to Avo, this paragraph.
All right. Հորան ծերս իվեր դարադեցիկ եւ զմանմին եւ զարուն փրկին աշխիցեք իբրգություն ամենայն դիեզերած անդ հիշեցեք զմեզ ի մակրապայլ աղավտսն Watson. Yes, I have to get to it.
That's okay.
Աղաչե Michel զմեզ զիվոր մեսի մեզ ասված. He's saying that when you raise your hands up,
yep,
and you enjoy the body and the
pashchitzek, it's like distribute.
Yeah, body and the blood of the saber for peace, I guess, purgation
or salvation.
Amenain Diezerat's entire world. Antishetek, so Antishetek is meant, so remember us.
Yeah.
Ant
means like then or at that time.
And then, yes.
When you're celebrating communion at the most important point, then remember us. Yeah.
The apex of the ceremony.
Exactly.
In holy makrapile, clean.
Yeah.
or
your bright, shining,
Shiningly
sparklingly
pure.
resplendent,
yeah.
or whatever you want to say, prayers. Yeah, makrapel alot is like a very common thing you see.
Is it? I couldn't find that in any dictionary either. Makrapile.
Maybe it's not, but it's in the colophons a lot.
Is it?
Makrapel, yeah,
We just split it into two, makur and pile, shiningly
Yeah.
pure.
yeah, makur, pilo.
Yeah, it's
Like the
obvious, but I
song
couldn't.
Horjam.
What's that, Harry?
It's like the song Horjam. There's a song Horjam. Horjam it says Isurp Khoran, Ishayev Zis. You have Merton and Chetzelots and stuff like that. It's a song sometimes. It's like a
Okay.
paraliturgical song, I think, that they sing during communion and stuff.
Okay,
Or in the prelacy.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. But yeah, this is that same Horjam. Alexia, do you want to pick up?
Yes. Okay. Աղաչեմ հիշելս մեզ, զի ողորմեսցի մեզ Աստված, հոժամ մեկ ի քերեզմանի հողացյալք, և թուք կենթանի մեզ պարեխոսք ար Աստված, և Աստված մեզ, և ցեզ ողորմեսցի հյուրում Քալստյանն Amen. So again, I had to refer back to my notes to peep the aorist subjunctives in the past couple lines, I think. But anyway, okay. So I beseech you to remember us, that God may have mercy on us.
Exactly.
And when we are buried in the grave.
Yeah, or literally Horatzialk, Horanan.
Okay. So become soil?
Exactly.
Turn to dust.
When we're turned to dust or
When
turned
we're turned
into
to
soil in the grave.
See, and that's a difference in our translations. I say become soil.
Yeah.
But more poetically, to turn to dust. Little scholar in the rough. To Kentani Mez. Okay, so that you who are alive may give a good word to God.
Yeah, and parejos is like a technical sort of theological word, which means intercessor.
Okay.
Meaning like someone who speaks good on your behalf to someone else. And all the times in the church services when there's prayers made, or you request that the saints or Mary or the martyrs would be your intercessors, parejosk, or that they would parejosel arasvads towards God for you. So that's in Armenian, it's really nice, like speak good.
Mm-hmm.
Say good.
Mishnor Tutun they use also, right?
It's basically exactly Mishnor Tutun, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's in Badarak.
Yep.
I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And to jump off topic or off tangent, in the Armenian Hail Mary, it's intercede. Hail Mary, Mother of God, intercede for our sinners, not pray for our sinners.
Yeah.
At least the version in Hamail said that way.
Yeah. And so this is the whole point, again, getting to the colophon, is that you see the scribes say often things such as like, I will turn to dust. I was just reading one today and he said, Seren yerta tarnal iho paitskiris mana havidian, or something like that. My hand will turn to dust, but this book or my letters will remain forever. And it's that idea.
Bedros Turian there.
Oh yeah.
It's like a pre-Bedros Turian.
Yeah, I mean it's such a common
famous poem.
Yeah. So the idea is he's imagining like a distant future. He's already have turned to dust, but prayer and remembrance can still be made for him through this book and this colophon. Go ahead, Alexia.
And may God bless us and you, in his welcome. Amen.
Yeah, so kalust is another technical theological word, which refers to the second coming of Christ.
Okay.
So may God have mercy on us and on you in his coming, but meaning when he comes again, in his second coming.
And
Yeah.
could I ask with Yorum, I've seen Yur before. Is Yorum like emphatic or
Yeah, it's the locative or dative form.
Okay.
And it's Yurum because it's agreeing with Kalastianen.
Okay.
He could have said Hyur Kalastianen, but yeah, maybe it's a little more emphatic to say Hyurum Kalastianen.
And the way you translate it was in his second coming. So
yeah,
Or at his second coming.
Or
at
at
any time, the
yeah,
time of.
that would probably be better.
Okay.
And then we got info on the date and the rulers, which we sort of looked at. Harry, do you want to do this?
Sure. Art Kretsav sa I Tavaganutianus high votes.
Yeah.
All right. Voho Kim 673.
Mm-hmm. Which we said add 551.
Which is 1224.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. I Haida Berutianen Yaren Gostantia Yevi Takavorutianen Hayots Medzats Pilibosi Vortvo Hrensi Antioku Ichar Yevi Tarn Jamanagi Horum Daknab Meds Ivera Christoneits Yev Nerein Pazunk Isovo Isero Yev I Kerutene.
Excellent.
So he's saying, does art just mean like then or therefore?
Yeah, art is he's saying like now, meaning like change of topic.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So now this was written in the date, during the Armenian date of 673.
Yeah.
Why is it high votes?
It's just a mistake on his part.
Okay.
Yeah.
During the pontificate of Lord Constantine and during the kingship of Greater Armenia of Pilibos, the son of the Prince of Antioch, in evil and in bitter times, in which there was great distress, great problems upon the Christians, and many difficulties. No, and they were greatly troubled.
Yeah, like many people were troubling or disturbing Christians, essentially.
Oh, so and Pazumk Nerein Christonianerun, I think.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So wait.
Or actually, no, it's probably passive. Many people were troubled or distressed, and then by.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But could it also be? Could Pazum can also be? They were just greatly troubled.
Yes, exactly. Many.
That's how I took it.
Were greatly troubled. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I said and they were so in evil and in bitter times, in which there was distress, great distress upon the Christians, and many were troubled, or when they were greatly troubled from famine, from the sword, and from slavery.
Yeah, exactly. Slavery or captivity.
And that presume has a plural, it's a nominative, so that would be the subject, many ones and many people.
Exactly. Good. Okay, I'll read the last bit, and then Matt, do you want to say your translation for the last?
Sure.
Okay, so art alachem chilinel meratir choshorutian kudwis kanzi panav chei hasu arvesti kerchutian yev orinagas ailots yev pazum putov kisheri yev tseregi tatar yev hankis vochari ankam yev hats vot shamanei udel yev huish yev pazum danchanok Kachtsiv yev zaravov, yev pazum doknutiamp, yev azki charcharanok gadaretzi surb avedaranes. Yev huij bagasyats luis achatzi mots, kanzi kiris manerer, yev kisheren iganterin luisen kerei. Yev kerchutian hamud vochei. Al vochap garatzi hanghani. Basen papakanat serdi imo, kanzi leva azvark serpuin Alexiano si, Arnelov asurb avedaranen Christosi, yev kanal eskamat snoda. Nuin bes, zangatzov yere, yev yes, Philip Toros, ush yetialem, yete hasitz, arotiv kterov yev amenain sirpots, yev oknaganu tiampen Hisusi Christosi. Okay, so Matt, I'll read like a sentence, then you say your translation and we'll kind of go back and forth.
Okay.
So art alachem chilina meratir choshorutian keruis.
Now I beseech you not to be accusatory of this book's coarseness.
Yeah. Essentially, don't blame me for the coarseness or crudity of my handwriting. Kanzi panav chei hasu arvesti kerchutian.
Because I did not entirely grasp the art of writing.
Exactly. Yev orinagas ailos.
And my exemplar text was that of others.
Yeah, maybe meaning he was
Someone,
just imitating other people's handwriting. Like no one ever taught him really how to form the letters. He was just copying what he saw on pages in front of him. That's what I'm guessing. Yev pazum putov, kisheri yev tseregi, tatar yev hankist vochari.
And with much diligence, by day and night, I did not pause and rest.
Yep. Ankam yev hats vot jamanei udel.
I had no time even to eat bread.
Yep. Yev huij yev pazum danchanok, kachtsiv yev zaravov, yev pazum doknutiamp, yev azki charcharanok, gadaretzi surp avedaranes.
And with very much torment, hunger, and thirst, and with much sleeplessness, and with manifold suffering, I completed this holy gospel.
Yev huij bagasyats luis achatzimots.
And the light of my eyes was greatly diminished.
Kanzi kiris manerer.
Because it had small letters.
Yeah, because the handwriting or the book was tiny. Yev kishern iganterin luisen kerei.
And I wrote at night in the lamplight.
Yeah, I wrote it at night by the light of a lantern. Yev kerchutian hamud vochei.
Wait, I think I'm lost. Where are you?
After the light of the lantern, he says, Yev kerchutian hamud vochei.
Did I miss that page?
Maybe.
Yes, I did. I don't.
He's saying, and I was no expert in writing.
Okay.
I was not an expert in writing. Al vochap garatzi hanghani.
But I completed as much as I was able to.
Vasan papakanat serdi imo.
For the sake of my heart's desire.
Kanzi leva azvark serpuin Alexiano si.
Because I heard the life of Saint Alexianos, like the hagiography.
Yep. Arnelov surp avedaranen Christosi yev kanal eskamat snoda.
Making the holy gospel of Christ and going according to his will. like
yeah.
following his will.
Mm-hmm. Nuin bes sangato yere yevias Philiptoros.
In that same way, I, Philiptoros, also became desirous. Desired the same, I think.
Yep. Ush yetialem yete hasits.
I have been heedful that I may attain, and I think he's talking may attain salvation.
Yeah, attain the kingdom or something like that. Allo tiksedov gevamenein serpots.
Through your prayers and all the saints.
Yep. Yevok nagane tiampen Jesusi Christosi.
And with the assistance of Jesus Christ.
Exactly. And then, do you want to explain what this is here, the letter, so we can go back to the manuscript?
Well, Avi had a question on the chat about that too. So,
Avi, what was your question?
he doesn't have a microphone, so you got to read the chat.
Who did the calculation at the end of the text? 673 plus 552 equals 1225. Yeah. So yeah, these are Arabic or Eastern Arabic numerals. 552 673, and the addition goes up, apparently makes 121225. 1225. So some later owner who used those numbers was calculating based on the 673 date found in the manuscript to calculate the date. And yeah, for some reason they added 552 instead of 551.
Well, that thing, part of that goes back to that the Armenian calendar didn't start in January, or it shifted at one point. So it started later in the year, but at some point it changed back to January to match other calendars.
This is wrong. It should be, it's either 550 or 551, depending on whether you're before or after the summer, or like March 21st, essentially, if I remember correctly. But it's never, you add 552.
And then maybe just that's what he thought the calculation was, and he was wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so any questions on this?
Yeah, I have questions on some of the verbs.
Yeah.
Like hang, hani.
Yeah, that's a compound. It's like a phrase for avardatsi. Often
Hani is like hanel. What's hang mean?
Hang is like, you know, the verb like hanga, or the word hangavor, which is basically rhyme.
Yeah, hang is rhyme. I was gonna say.
Yeah. And it's rhyme, but it has the sense of ending. It's the end that always rhymes. So hang hani, I brought it to an end.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask about Arnelov is surb avedaranen. So is this Arnel meaning the modern Anel, I did, or this is I took?
Well,
in classical Armenian.
Yeah.
Making, creating, or doing is how I read that.
According to classical Armenian, it's what Matt said, do or make. So the equivalent of anel, anel.
Right.
But
so
around this time, there's starting to be confusion between Arnul, which is modern Arnel, and classical Arnel, which is anel. And so I actually wasn't sure which one it should be here. Is he saying he imitated the life of Saint Alexianos, who took the holy gospel of Christ and walked according to his will, or who made the holy gospel of Christ and walked according to its will? Is he
did the gospel of Christ, in other words? Like he did it. He like acted out the gospel of Christ.
Acted it out. Yeah. I think it's probably that.
Did you ever find out?
I heard the life of Alexianos taking the gospel of, or doing the gospel of Christ and going according to his will. But that's about Alexianos, so that's about him doing this. Philiptoros.
I think it's about Alexianos, because in the next sentence he says he wants to be in the same way he wants to do that. That's his model was Alexianos, I think. Is how I read it. In the same way, Philip Tauros, also became desirous. He wanted to do what Alexianos did.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's how I understand that.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yes. Okay, and then the other one I wanted to ask was Ushiet Talyem Yetehasits. I didn't understand that at all.
So do you know the word ushatir?
Yeah.
This is basically that. So yetyal is
Yetyal is Taradzem.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yetyalem taradzem. And tir is like the verbal root. So ushatir, ushyetyalem. Ushatir yavadzem, or ushyetyalem.
Okay. And then Yetehasits is.
It's almost like it feels like a purpose. So I've been careful, but purpose with like a reservation or like hesitation, like that I might arrive. Or like if by chance I might be able to attain the kingdom.
Right. And so it has, but what I guess I'm asking, what is the tense of Hasids?
Hasids is subjunctive first person.
Because it's with the yeta, it goes like, it's like a, should that happen kind of thing.
Yeah, so it would be Hasids, Hastses, Hastse, that I might arrive, that you might arrive, that he might arrive.
Thank you.
Yeah, aorist subjunctive.
So Jesse, did you ever find out more on this Saint Alexius that he's talking about?
Not really. There was an article actually that came out a few months ago about Saint Alexianus in the Armenian tradition. And they didn't, I read the life, I read the life, there's multiple versions of it, and I didn't see anything like super, that would make you really think like, oh, this is exactly why he referred to that saint, you know?
So the one I know nothing about other than not reading a life of him, Arisia, man of God of Edessa. That's who I thought he was. So maybe the man of God epithet.
There's a Saint Alexianos who is this person being referred to.
Is it Saint Alexius from the 5th century?
Yeah. Who in Greek is Alexianos, and Greek and Armenian. I'm gonna find the article. Yeah, Alexia. It's
Please.
name too.
I'm interested in this.
Yeah, so there's a new open source. I'll just share it on the screen. Journal of Armenian Studies, specifically Krapar Classical Armenian, called Armeniaka. And this is the very first issue that just came out. So International Journal of Armenian Studies, Volume 1. And I believe it was in here that this article on Saint Alexianus was written. I'm going to put this link in the chat.
Just on Wikipedia, it talks about how he was not to use Wikipedia, but just on Wikipedia, it talks about him being the son of a wealthy family who was supposed to get married, and he ran away and then wanted to be a monk. So maybe because Philip Tauros became a monk from a young age, that's why he was inspired by him.
Yeah. So see right here, the anonymous saint in the Armenian tradition, Alexios or Alexianos, the voluntary pauper, so the voluntary poor person, or the anonymous man of God. So that's like what you were saying too, Matt. So page 39. And so you can see that she basically goes over the different traditions about this saint. Yeah, there's 2 versions.
Whoa. Can you share that with us? That
Yeah, I
website?
just put the link in the chat to the home page of like where the journal is, and then if you just say download PDF, you can get the whole thing. So anyway, you can follow up on that there. And then I'll share this in the chat too. I did a little publication on this manuscript colophon with like a little introduction about colophons in general. And then these are more images from that manuscript. This is what it looked like in the front and back. A little bit about, you know, like the historical detail in it and things. And then here's some more pages from it. And then the transcription and translation. So if you ever want to look back or check it or anything like that. This is on the entries of the Society for Armenian Studies, which has also, it's like a open access sort of publication that has like shorter articles or research guides and things like that.
You know what I really like about that? Not the manuscript itself, but the props that hold the pages open. Those hands.
I know.
Those are cool.
I know. When you become a wealthy manuscript collector, get these too. Yeah. All right. Well, that was great. I'm so glad we were able to get through the whole thing.
Yes, this was very, very good. It was very enjoyable and informative, and nice to do this again after a little break.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the next session, I'll email everyone, but January 4th, and Matt will be leading it on a couple odes of Saint Nerses Snorhali, which is, as he mentioned, part of a larger project he's working on to publish a translation and study of about 60 odes of Saint Nerses Snorhali.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, well, have a great night, everybody. And
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas. Yep.
Yes.
Christmas. Thank you, Jesse.
Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, Matt, for all the tremendous effort you put into this. It's very
you're very
appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Ava, you need to get your microphone fixed, camera fixed before January. Come on. We miss seeing your face.
And we want to hear from you.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Party Kisher.
Isher Pani.
Share party.